Greetings, I'm Mike Writer. Today we'll be talking about Star Trek Online with another ship preview build actually. The Fek'ihri Byr'Jai Interceptor Tier 6 of course, and it's the Xmas 2022 event. So what are we talking about this one? This is the most recent event shipping game which runs from the 6th of December to the 5th of January on PC and console at the same time. The ship is currently free with some work. It, it may come available in the Zen store for 17,000 Zen in about 2 years' time in 2025. That's expected, not and that's based on previous event ships. There's currently a lobby buyout to get the ship early if you do. However, this is a very expensive option and is actually worth as much as some of the better console. The lobby you need to spend is ridiculously high. I only recommend doing it if you're spending lobby if you're running short. You need more tokens than days left. This buyout, believe it is how I'm getting on Tribble, the public test server or public test realm, by duplicating holodeck characters from the live game. I'm on PC, so that's the reason why I can do it like that. There is no transfer mechanism for console players at the moment, and I don't know if there ever will be. So I'll be covering some stats, comparing these stats to existing ships, some ideas of builds, and is it worth doing? What I'll be covering in later builds, what some ideas, I'm fleshing out some of the ideas I've mentioned it here for budget builds, perform some tests on the Tribble test server, and is it still worth it after actually using it? Let's cover these stats now. I picked these two ships purely because of what I thought this ship would be close to. And ready? Now the Byr'Jai has the hull capacity of 0.9, which is low. I mean the Burrell's actually got even lower, but to give you an idea, that is a lot of other ships have got a lot higher stats, and also got a lower shield modifier, which is also reduces the how much hits it can take. However, it's got a decent turn rate at 20. I mean, the bigger the number, the faster it turns. So it turns faster than many other ships, but not Burrell's outdoes it in that department. But it also has a somewhat of decent speed, and that might be slightly faster than Daenerys and just slightly slower than the Burrell. And inertia ratings are all 80s, and bigger the number, the quicker it's easier to turn and less likely to slide, as I like to describe it. And it's got antimatter. The ship's got a commander tactical, a lieutenant tactical intel. I made a typo there. An ensign engineering, a lieutenant commander universal with temporal operative, and a lieutenant commander science. So it's quite a bit of choices you've got there. And the ship's got 5 forward and 2 aft with 1 experimental, and I think all 3 of these weapons ships have got an experimental. I've got to include it on the Daenerys. And the consoles have got 3 engineering, 4 tactical, and 5 science. This is very high for a tactical ship because it's actually pretty weird console setup. But since we haven't tested it and I was going off the blog, it doesn't mention supporting dual cannons or not, but I presume yes. And it's got a unique console part of the down and the Ravager's Sheik experimental weapon, which comes with it. So you get, I usually need two, and it doesn't have anything intrinsic to the ship, which I'm including under. So, and on the Starship trait, you got to open the gates, which I'll cover the trait on the trait and a few things later. I've got ship not included in here is actually the Tavara, which has actually got the same hull. I didn't do a big comparison, but because I didn't need, because I thought the Boreal bird of prey would be the more famous and more easier to pick up per ship for players. I also mentioned that Boreal is a Klingon only ship unless you unlock cross faction flying, and there is a lot of these ships have got. All three of these ships have got more of a tactical focus, with the exception of the Boreal, which is very much a make your own, but with a lot less seating. But the Daenerys. The only reason why I picked this one up is because it's the only interceptor in the game besides the Byr'Jai. So I had to pick it. So yeah, not too much big differences other than some slight differences in the hull and the space stats of the game, with some minor things with the seatings. So, I actually, when I was compiling this, I had some information from other players about the mirror angle, so I've decided to include it here. Now, the mirror angle is going to be probably the best one to use for using for the for building a build around, because the mirror angle is actually has a hangar bay and has the hull to match, and well, is also a bit less agile than Byr'Jai. But then, and I also mentioned it's also got slightly better tactical in the tactical department, so it's probably do weapon damage more than the Byr'Jai. Okay, let's actually move on to my initial thoughts. That's pretty much on the low end, especially compared to some other ships. This is somewhat normal on the for event ships. Like a event ships, she lacks a commander specialization sheet. That means a few things with that, but basically you can't have a Intel commander seat available on these ships. Seating suggests that we're going weapon heavy works. However, the science consoles suggest that the science should rule, and it seems to me that I should try and see if I go with a direct energy weapon science, or DUSI. It's very possible. The EW it stands for direct energy weapon, which basically which is basically phasers and basically beams and cannons. As this ship is actually based on a ship pet. The ship can't really take too many hits, but it's fast and nimble to avoid the damage, which we do mean that it is fast and nimble. Now, I got some. Now I'm going to look at the one of the included gears and traits. The puzzle down console is both about weapon damage and boosts science powers a bit. Now, this is quite useful because you can stick this console into one of the two engineering slots, and well, you've got really boost up your science power with the science console stuff. And tear up of the gate starship trait works with anomalies, which are great for another science power, great enough for science, which are based on science powers. And you can really, if you're going to be wanting to use this trait, why don't you? You got to have this is really suggesting that I should use anomaly generating skills. Gravity well 1 being the only option for being one of the options for this ship, because Gravity well 2 and 3 cannot be used on the Byr'Jai. The wind event's very cold in space. It has also effect. It's got ensign to Lieutenant Commander. It's going to be can be used it as well, so it's very nice to use that. And there are a couple of abilities, and since we've got temple operative settings, I can also include the chromatic inversion field and time collapse as being some options, and got to set those up as well. So, moving on to something a bit more important. I'm going to quickly run through this, but I basically have rules, which I can build rules for when I do this stuff, and I'm going to say they're going to be 2023, but that's purely because it really can be a swine to do, but it's going to be. But basically, normally I'd start with it. If you can get it in the drop table, day 1 builds, here it is. Days 30 and 60 include items from TFO and reputations, and most reputations, with the exception of competitive. And competitive is limited to Tier 5 Tier 5 when it's on day 60, purely because of how you get all the competitive marks. And I'm just forgetting that there's a day 90 build, which is basically pretty much new end gamers. And when I usually cover C-Star, like most ships, C-Star game ships I can only use the stuff that comes with a ship, not anything else. Due to the way fleet ships work, where you can get all the fleet ships, I'm going to assume that you've got it at day 60 when you reach tier 6 of it, 4 or 5 reputations. So you can T6 will also assume that you don't have the C-Star build ship to use from the build. The lithium cost will be noted in both numbers and data refining as well if I do use them. It's just purely so you can actually build up a stock if you need to. And again, oh dear, any item that is considered expensive should not be. I don't want to just make you spend a few million EC or buy something with real money, and then just get you to replace it in a later build. Item mods I don't really cover unless it has a really important choice later on. Item upgrades I'm not going to be used for this. used for the builds, what you see in the builds, but that's not really important. And this is what this buff. Bridge officer powers are usually limited to ranks 1 or 2 until day 60 builds, and this is going to have some changes later. But items from lock boxes, den stores, and basically items from anything that that isn't part of the event is pretty much not considered. Basically, if you have to pay for it, it is not counted. Okay, day 30 and day 60. Day 30 is really there for completing the tier 5 of reputation, and day 60 is roughly the time when you complete all reputations. And I've also mentioned that, and the delivering costs are going to be due to changes in the last year. Last couple of years, it's less of a important thing. Now, I'm really going to be covering about build ideas now. Really, well, I'm thinking about going about pin and spike type builds. Now, because of this, I don't have much information on the ship at the moment. I would do recommend looking at cannon scatter volley. This does that you can use some stuff with a cannon scatter volley, or they can build a beam escort, which is a bit more tricky to do, but given what I'm thinking about using, both are a viable option. Pin and spike is really about holding your foam and then hitting them hard. And my shepherding list, which is basically what you like to consider grabbing or keeping, is the chronometric calculation set. There's both a cannon variant and a beam variant for those, and you can try and and see which one you prefer when you get told of it. You could add this one, that one last. I've said to get polygon weapons and polygon weapon consoles. They're going to be the hardest to grab hold of in a hurry, but they're very, very nice to go with the chronometric calculation set, which is part of the which is pretty much a very good thing to consider using. I've also considered, since we're going to be running a lot of polygon power ups, why not use get the home set? This will be a bit of a iffy one to consider using, but it's one I'm throwing in. Just, this is not a you must get everything, but it's a nice thing to consider getting on the list, because I'm not going to be using it in the actual episode, in the upcoming thing. And then there's the temporal reputation. There's gamma task force weapon reputation set. Again, picking up stuff that you could get enough to consider getting reputation stuff for. And then there's temporal reputation with the shield, defector, weapon, and engine set, and that's what I'm considering grabbing. Now, the big question I think most of people have: is it worth doing? And I'm going to have to say, yes, I believe it is worth doing. The ship gear, the ship unique consoles and trait has the potential to be some of the best items in the game. The ease of running a daily task is actually made it a lot easier due to the fact that you've got a number of treasures for tasks to do, and you can take about 10-day break and still get it. But this is it. This has been Mike Writer. See you guys next time.